What's up, bud? It's Rob. This is Apparel Success. And I have a really important video for you today where I want to talk to you about the nature of the clothing brand business. One thing that I was super unaware of when I first started up my clothing brand was just how much capital it would require in order to get my clothing brand to any significant level. And the big reason for this is that every single time you grow and you make a significant leap forward, if you're an inventory-based clothing brand, then you're going to have an increase in your overhead. Because if you sell out of your inventory and you're gaining more customers, then every time you restock that inventory, you're getting more and more inventory, and that's increasing your overhead. You're also going to be investing more and more into Facebook ads and things like that. And so I wanted to talk to those of you who are just starting up, and those of you who are just maturing into becoming a much more mature clothing brand, because I think that this is a really important thing to cover. And I want to talk to you about how you can handle it, how you can deal with it, and adapt so that your clothing brand stays strong throughout this process. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at Design Crowd. And if designs are something that you need made for your clothing brand, then I really recommend that you give them a shot. You post a project on there, amazing designers from all around the world will compete for your project. You choose the winner, then you get that design plus revisions. Here's an example of the best-selling design on my website right now, and I got it made through Design Crowd. If you're interested, head over to designcrowd.com/apparel to learn about the special offer that I have for you where you can save up to $100, or simply use the discount code APPAREL when you post a project on Design Crowd. All right, so the way that I want to start at this video, that will probably be one of these things you hear that you say, I knew that already, but it had never really truly sunk in, is that different types of businesses require naturally different levels of capital. So, based on the nature of the business that you're getting into, it's going to require different things of you. If you wanted to start up an airplane business right now, that's going to cost you a lot of money to do, right? Because you just need to invest in the planes up front and the gasoline and things like that. The nature of that business is capital intensive. Whereas if you wanted to go online, start up a YouTube channel, build up a following, make YouTube money, all of that requires basically zero capital, and it's one of those businesses where you can just easily make profit right off the bat. The difference in these types of businesses is that the one with more risk, the one that requires more of an upfront investment and more capital, it generally comes with a higher reward. So if you actually pulled off that airplane business, you could potentially be like $1 billion brand, right? Whereas if you were just doing a YouTube channel, it's really likely that you can start making money right away, because it's so easy and it's just so simple. There's not as much of a barrier to entry financially, but the likelihood that you're going to become a billionaire on YouTube is pretty low. And so there's sort of a trade-off there. Now, the nature of a clothing brand is really interesting because at the beginning, it doesn't require all that much capital from you to get started. You can get started for $1,000 and have a legitimate clothing brand with inventory ready to start selling. As you start selling and you start growing your clothing brand, the overhead of your inventory, if you're an inventory-based clothing brand, is just going to constantly get bigger and bigger as your clothing brand gets bigger and bigger. And you're going to have to find a solution for this when it comes to your ability to fund your clothing brand. This is something that I'm not sure a lot of new clothing brands really realize what they're getting into. And so I really want to talk to you about some solutions for this right now. The number one solution to this problem for most clothing brands is to just reinvest all of your profits, every single cent that you make from your clothing brand, back into your clothing brand, just to keep it going, just to keep it growing and to keep the fuel there. Because that profit that you make, all of the money that you're making from your clothing brand, is really the lifeblood of your clothing brand. And it's really the fuel for your clothing brand to get bigger and bigger. And so the longer that you can delay paying yourself with your clothing brand, the better off you're going to be when it comes to your ability to grow your clothing brand into something significant. This is particularly true if you're bootstrapping and you're coming from a place of not having a lot of money and trying to grow something from complete scratch, okay? If you're trying to grow from complete scratch, you don't have an investment from friends or family or something like that, that's how I started, then you're really going to have to dump everything back in to really keep the thing going. And maybe at some point in the future, you can decide to really pay yourself the amount that you want. But I really do believe that, in this stage, it's important to sacrifice paying yourself as much as you possibly can for the longevity of your clothing brand, for the health of your clothing brand, to really keep it growing. Another solution to this, if you have a really good credit rating, is to open up a line of credit with your bank. It doesn't have to be crazy big, just to help you fund the inventory for your clothing brand. So that this way, you can fund your inventory up front, and then when you sell it, you can pay off your line of credit, and that'll at least give you the capital that you need in order to have the inventory there that you can sell on your website if you're completely broke, if you don't have a lot of money. But I really recommend that you grow up to this point, like you build the brand up to this point, because if you just invest in a crap load of inventory off the bat without any proof of sales and without figuring that out already, then you're probably going to be screwed. This is definitely one of the main benefits of running a print-on-demand business, is that you don't have to worry about funding your inventory up front. That's such a major issue to try and grow through and to try and figure out as a clothing brand that's getting bigger, investing in their own inventory and storing their own inventory. And the struggle though is that obviously if you go the print on demand route, then you lose control over your shipping, and you can't quality check all the items and things like that. So there really is this area of struggle for people who are just starting up their clothing brand. And this is just an issue that I've faced. Just going to be open with you. When it comes to investing in new inventory to grow the brand and to really get it to the point that I want to, and just realizing, how much capital it requires up front every single time, and just keeping up with that, it can be something to, definitely focus on. Now, I don't want you to be deterred by the idea that, it's going to require a lot of money. I just want you to be aware that really, in order for you to grow this thing into something significant, it's likely at some point in time going to require an investment, and a fairly significant investment financially, and you're probably going to have to make that financial risk. I believe that that's something that, a lot of clothing brand owners don't really process fully when they're first starting up their clothing brand, is that at a certain level, there's going to be some financial risk involved. And, that's just the nature of entrepreneurship at the end of the day in a lot of cases. And this is just one of those industries where it will likely require that from you at some point in order for you to really get to where you want to go. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you also can ease into this. You don't have to take a giant leap of faith and, put a $50,000 investment to your clothing brand right from the beginning. That's not what I'm talking about doing. I'm talking about easing into it, being honest with where your clothing brand's at. The second that your clothing brand really starts to lock in, you start to know exactly who your audience is, then maybe it's the point in time for you to, take out a line of credit and really invest in your clothing brand and invest in more inventory and invest in more Facebook ads, because, that really is just the nature of an inventory-based business. It's not even for clothing brands, right? So, there's also this kind of awkward paradox here where you don't have to treat your clothing brand as a full-time business. You can totally do it as a side hustle and just see how it kind of goes and see how you're vibing with it. The paradox here is that if you treat it as a side hustle and you don't give it that full-time effort, then it's much less likely that you're going to achieve the results that you really want to get with your clothing brand, because at a certain point in time, it's going to require you to transition into taking it much more seriously, taking a little bit more financial risk, really investing your full time into it. And that's really the challenge and the adrenaline rush of being an entrepreneur. So I hope that this video, at a bare minimum, just allowed you to peek behind the curtains a little bit and, get a better grasp on the reality of what it's like to be a full-time entrepreneur who's, taking those risks and really going for it and fully investing in the thing that they want to do, rather than sort of having your foot half on the gas, half on the brake, where you have your foot fully on the gas, what that would look like and sort of the type of investment and life that you'd have to be living in order to really make that happen. And that's something that obviously you can work towards. You don't have to do it all at once. It would actually be really not the smartest thing to just jump into it all at once and just do it all at once. But, I thought it was an important video for most of you guys starting up, because I think that, when I was first starting up, it's just something that I was really unaware of. I was just kind of doing it on the side, and I had these big dreams of how it would all just kind of happen, and it would happen easily, and things would just kind of fly in. And you just kind of keep realizing that things get a little bit more real as you're growing your business. And so I hope that helps. One thing that I think would be really cool in this video is if you put in the comments how you've dealt with this with your own clothing brand, so that other clothing brands can read it and really get inspired and, find solutions to their own problems in, your own story. So, share in the comments how exactly you've dealt with funding your own clothing brand, funding your own inventory, and, just taking entrepreneurship, taking your clothing brand more and more seriously as you grow. I think that it would be really cool for other clothing brand owners to hear that. And if you haven't already, check out my free clothing brand marketing masterclass at apparelsuccess.com/masterclass. You can watch the whole thing for free. And if you made it to this point in the video, I want to tell you about the closed Facebook group for Apparel Success. There's a link in the description. Follow that link, join us in the group, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.